Anyone else? Okay. Well, thank you both for coming. Thank you very much. And Jeremy, this is your third time gracing us with your presence. Which one appreciative? First time, so welcome. You sit, yeah, you guys sit. Yeah, we were just remarking as I took them here through the secret passageway. Jeremy remarked how so much is going on, and it's true. It seems every year there's more and more.
I think the first time I came here, it's grown massively. It's incredible. So thank you for coming all the way from London. It's a pleasure that people are so polite. I think we're very lucky to be here. Well, you're lucky.
Yeah, this is my first time. I'm very lucky to be here. I'm really having a great time.
It's one of the most iconic dances. Femi Taylor. People will start standing just by. And really saw it was a lovely sequence. All by the rank.
But it was wonderful to have when I did it originally. Was it 1993?
So it came out.
Yeah, and just being, the set was incredible. Not having CGI Jabba Hutt, the real Jabba Hutt, just the atmosphere.
There was also, sorry, I'll do one thing. The day before Tuna, Mike Carter, I always remember, I used to go into the studio in the morning, park the car, and he said, could you get me a cup of tea? I've got this 4.5-hour makeup, which you did. And it was amazing. I said, well, there's your tea. There's my makeup. So I was very nice.
Femi and I were discussing earlier how she, I believe, was the only actor from the original film to go back and film reshoots for the extended, not the extended, the special edition in, what was it, 96?
96.
Yeah, 96. Yeah, and so how different of an experience was that for you, given the difference in technology and special effects and everything?
Well, it was, I mean, when I went back in 96, they wanted me to, I had to CGI with Jabba, which was very strange, when they got me to just struggle on my niche. But as I said, I was fortunate enough to have the real creature when I did it in 83. So, in a lot of ways, I preferred doing it when I originally did it, because it was all real, and I wasn't having to, I wasn't up against CGI, which is very different when I was up.
That's interesting, yeah. And your thoughts on those scenes? What do you think?
Well, I personally think that the visual scene is better. Woo! Woo! I just think it's better. I just felt that you didn't need the extra singers, and I don't think it's sort of computed with what was going on. So, in a lot of ways, I'm just really lucky that I still have the original footage, which you didn't get on VHS.
Yeah.
I think so.
The original, yeah.
The original, so I'm sure all of them are worth more.
Well, if I had my way, I would have had a dance.
So you just watched me far.
I would have been, otherwise, when you take me off my line, Boba Fett's got to be absolutely
focused.
That's why I didn't ask you for a dance. Would you like a dance? No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Speaking of dance, Jerry, do you have any background in musical theater, or did you do something back? Hutt Richard, was it?
It was Summer Holiday. Which
Yes.
Who did that? Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm not a singer, I'm not a great dancer, but you improvise. So leapt up in the air. Supposed to look good. But it's nice to, Cliff Richard still now, and he's still singing and dancing, and he's determined to go on. He doesn't need to work. He's a great guy. He's surfing.
Oh,
What do I have to do to get a nice?
I don't know. I think you should.
Yeah, you should have.
Yes,
So Boba Fett.
What a good, I think I might start. So Boba Fett. I'll see what I can do.
So, whereas Femi's background, and you have so much experience with regard to dance, theater, cats. You want to tell us a little bit about how you broke into musical theater and dance?
Yeah, I mean, I've been dancing since I was 4 years old. I remember going to my first dance class and saying, "Mom, I want to be a dancer." And she said, "Oh, darling, can you do the splits?" And I tried to do the splits that way. And she said, "No, darling, turn around, do it that way." And went split. She said, "Well, you be a dancer. You're supple enough." But so that was my focus. And then I got into my first Western show when I was about 17. I was training at the dance school, and I wasn't supposed to audition for anything outside the school, and I was one of the naughty kids, and I did, and I haven't looked back since. That was my first, it was an all-black American cast called Bubble About Sugar. And then I did a film in Germany, and then something else, and then I was asked to do Cats, audition for Cats, the original cast. So, and then what was happening, I was doing Cats in the daytime, and then Jedi came up, and I auditioned for Jedi. I was being a pussycat in the nighttime and Twilight dancer in the daytime. So I was green, and then I had to do my cat makeup. But I auditioned like I auditioned for the parts of Oola.
Did you tour? Did you tour with Cats? Did you go?
No, I did the London cast, and then they asked me to do a year in Australia.
Oh,
So
wow.
I went to Australia. And I stayed there for 6 years and I came back.
Thanks. Let's see. Jeremy wanted to mention in Boba, James Bond, Boba Fett on the rim. James Boba, yes. Anyway, James Bond. How many films were you in?
3.
Was it 3? Okay, I wasn't sure if it was 2 or 3. And you were assistant to Q?
Yeah, I
all
was
of those?
assistant to Q in 2 of them.
2.
And one is just on the side.
Okay, so that's why I was.
But there's
mixed up.
nothing to do with Smithers was
It's
the name of the
separate.
character.
Yes.
Q's assistant.
Yes.
So there were no scenes for me, so they said, "Oh, just give it." That's what was happening. Just give me the costume.
Reminds me of when Anthony Daniels was here a number of years ago, and he explained after, I forgot if all the original trilogy had come out, but at least 2, maybe the 3rd, Jedi came out, but he was explaining how he got a role in I forget what it was a film, I think, British TV, so, and he played a doctor, and it turns out the scene, he was all excited, finally going to be under this, this golden armor, and I wanted to wear this helmet, this faceplate. He was a doctor, and he was in the operating room, and he had a surgical mask on, and the head cover. So he realized after, he said, "Damn it!" He said, "Oh, you couldn't see my face once again." So he was completely covered up. So it's like you're one of the men behind the mask, or behind the helmet.
Just your hiding behind the mask.
Yeah, it's. Do you feel it must be more liberating, though, in a sense that you don't. I mean, you have to be in some ways. It's restrictive in that picture like Iron Man. That's why Robert Downey Jr. always got the helmet off in all the films. So for so much of the Iron Man films, but if you put the helmet on or a mask, you can't see the actor's face. In some ways, I think it would be more liberating, and then you don't have to worry about how your expression and things like that. So yeah, whereas it might be harder to convey the emotion
But I
because.
think people say, how do you convey what people talking about inside and outside? You go through it in your mind as natural as possible. I think some people might think, I mean well on the banter, so therefore I'm going to go, that's the stance.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Thanks.
People take me on and I'm beaten in 3 seconds.
So I'm sure we have a lot of questions from the fans. Let's take some questions. So many, I don't know where to choose from. Come on, someone. Okay.
What was the audition process like for your Star Wars roles?
My agent called up and said that they want to see black female dancers, and the director wants you to arrive in your bikini. Right? A woman sees a training. And so I went to see the director, who was Richard Markman, the late Richard Markman, and he said, "Look, are you trained dancer?" I said, "Yes, I am." And I said, "What's this film for?" And he said, "Well, I can't tell you. Have you got your swimming costume?" I said, "I have." He said, "Could you just walk them down for me?" Okay. And then he said, "Well, what I'm going to do is ask a few of you back to dance." So I I got a phone call, and they said, we'd like you to come back for a second audition. And I did, and then we did a very grueling audition. We still didn't know what it was for, and we were just all getting changed. And of course I was talking to somebody or something, and I heard this, and then I went, what? And they said, it's the next Star Wars movie. So it was amazing that, and the choreographer who I knew very well, Anthony Van Lask, at that time, he said, look, I think you've got the part, but I can't say it. And I was, when I got to the stage door, to cast, I had to focus in on the part. So, that was my audition process.
Well, I fitted the suit. I mean, this sounds funny. There was one suit, and I went in and they tried it on the suit. Size 10 shoes, I'm size 10. The helmet sort of snug, there was sponge on the knee. And I went out onto the set. George Lucas is doing a sequence with a bomb. And I walked out. And I noticed when I walked into the studio, people were going, it's because the costume looks good. It's not me, it's the costume. And when I stood there, and George said, yeah, that was it. Okay, well, welcome aboard. We'll see you on Monday. I was virtually saying, under the mask, I haven't done anything. I've just stood amazing. And he said, well, what do you do? So it was, they needed somebody, but it could have been any of you could have been. Not as well. It was that simple. And then I was asked to play Lieutenant Sherwood in The Empire Strikes Back. They had no one available. Jeremy, get in there. And then later on I went back to do Revenge of the Sith as Captain Hulk. And I think I'm very fortunate.
That's one of the things.
Yes.
Yeah. Someone had to do it.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to say, having been with now Disney taking over, does it affect, have there been any talks or with working on any, because I know they're supposed to do a film a year now.
Yeah, honestly, no one knows. I think they're behind with the timing. I think it's April, not January. So no one knows. Occasionally, if you're being naughty, you say, yes, I've just been cast. What? No, so it's a joke.
It's very much hush.
Yeah, it is very hush for people. Even a week ago, I went to the BBC to talk about the new films, and I said, I don't know much about them, but the excitement is that they're casting people off the street, virtually. And because they said, right, okay, as long as you're 19, as long as you're athletic and you look good, you have a chance. And that's all around England.
Yeah, they've just had auditions. They held auditions.
So an open audition to all garages. So there is a chance.
Well, actually, it's funny you say that, because Mark Hamill, in Celebration, Essen, he said, he did send thought that they should get me back in something else, and he said he could do it.
I said to him, not to ask you. Because I sorry, that lovely lady in Captain Colin's house.
Well, did they actually call you, or did you just happen to be around for this one? For the Revenge of the Sith?
Well, Revenge of the Sith, I mean, I remember going on holiday and stepping out of the car in Italy, and the phone rang, and I said, and it was, Jeremy, is that Jeremy? I said, yes, who's that? I said, Rick McCallum. I said, no. I said, we're on holiday. Well, would you like to leave this till maybe when you come back from the holiday? And it was Rick McCallum, the producer. And before I knew it, he said, well, when you come back, you've got plenty of time, call us, come to the studio, we'll dress you up. I said, you know what, I was kidding, I think it's Boba Fett. And you have a slight sort of...
That's what I had.
Well, it's sitting there. So, no, it suddenly happened, and again, they said, it's all small scene, nothing big. It was great.
And Femi, we mentioned earlier upstairs, your brothers kept the tradition alive.
Yeah,
As far as being in a more recent film. What was the Phantom Menace, wasn't it?
Phantom Menace,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, tiny. I mean,
Yeah.
Yee-haw! But he was in it. And he's an established actor anyway. But Nick Gillard, who choreographs all the stunts, he was Ben's double on a lot of his work in the 80s, and he just said to him, look, come on, I can get you on. And also Rick had directed him in something else in the film, so that's how.
Do you think, what's the original, like the British connection with all the, so many actors for the films are British? I mean, because the filming took place, well, was it Times? No.
Street.
Okay, yeah. And so in London or where?
In London.
It's in London, yeah. So I mean, is it just because of the locale, the location rather, or the studios, or I mean, British actors are excellent.
Well, the studios were perfect for some of the sets.
Is that?
The big set in Blackbridge, it had the whole thing. It wasn't superimposed or CGI. That was
Back in
perfect
the
studio.
80s and 70s, really?
Yeah.
Oh wow! So that was all.
That was your studio, amazing.
Oh. So just that. So I mean, the filming takes place there. There's so many great, stage actors and people in British film and TV that they can
But they'll
pull from.
probably go to Pine.
For the new ones. Yeah. So I was just curious if there was, if there was a rationale behind all of the British actors.
It's tax and stuff like that.
No,
No, but I think a lot of false information is pushed out in front of everybody to say, this will happen. I am assured now that this will happen. And you think, no, I don't think it is. But it does keep the whole thing
The hype.
bubbling.
Yes.
And I think it's exciting. I think people should be excited. I don't think it's an exciting film series. And
Sure.
The public are there to take it on.
Yeah. I think a lot of people feel, I mean, the prequels were, I don't know, they were somewhat disappointing in different aspects. They have their merits, but overall, I mean, it's all subjective. And I grew up with the original, so of course, I always gravitate toward those. But I have a feeling that, I don't know, it seems that it's in good hands, the new ones.
Well,
I think
J.J.
they'll have learned from their recent
Yes,
mistakes.
absolutely.
Yeah,
I think
so it's very
J.J.
promising.
Abrams is a good director. Star Trek.
Yes, that was great. Yeah.
And he's got a calm to it. And it's got to be good, otherwise they'll be slaughtered. We're not slaughtered
Well,
last week. Just they
Just
won't
break over the goal.
accept it. They won't accept it. Because
Sure, no, of course.
so, it's
But doesn't George Lucas have the last say? Yeah.
well, he has the last say, but not on the filming. That's why they want a new perspective. And here, they've had enough. I think.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's it.
That's
Yeah.
it. But I'll still be there as an advisor.
That's it, right there, yes.
I've asked this question of a lot of different celebrities after the years. As it comes to action figures, how do you feel about having little versions of yourself existing in the world, and are there particular versions you like, ones that you hate? How do you feel about that people get to have tiny versions of you in their homes?
Well, I think it's very funny to have a figure of yourself. My boys, when they were very young, I had one of the original Boba Fett's this size, and they ripped the neck off. So that's what you think of your father. But it was just, it was a very beautiful figure, but it was one of the original. But I have collected different Boba Fett stuff, badges to even a bathroom.
So much. Whereas my son's got my Oola doll out and took all the netting off. Keep it in the box! It's taken 17 years! And it's exclusive! Don't do it! Anyway.
But there are lots of incredible figures and how the art and it's perfect series. Star Wars is a perfect series for people to get their figures and go, wow, look at this. And a lot of very good, here, some very good artists, young, and Star Wars has brought out this talent in so many people.
It's true.
A lot of actors manage to get a souvenir. Were you from their filming? Were you able to get any souvenirs?
No.
You have a helmet. You have a Boba Fett helmet.
Yeah, I have one that was made, especially. But if I'd been a thief, I would have taken the whole outfit on the last shoot, disappeared. But I'm not.
interesting you asked that because if I had decided that, oh, I'll take my shoes or I'll take something from Oola, I had to go into my original costume, which was very bizarre. But if I had taken something, then they would have gone, oh, yeah.
For the reshoots, you mean?
The
Sorry.
reshoots, yeah, that was the whole thing. When they called me up,
Where
they
are the
said,
shoes?
yeah, they said, you know, the one thing you'll have to fit in your original costume because we want to merge the two scenes together. So yeah, so I had to have my shoes, the what is ever left of the costume, all green flowers.
Come on, in front of these lovely people, not many, you can tell us now the truth. Where is the costume?
I don't know where it is now, but it was just quite freaky, you know, putting on that costume 20 years later.
And you fitted it back.
I saw those donuts in the corner, and when they see, I thought, no! Okay, but yeah, no, I had to fit in, but I didn't have my kids back then.
Well, I think the kids, the boys, when they went to school, the film came out, they didn't say a word to any of their friends at all. Again, 18 between the Boba Fett, go on, give us a laugh. They would still be careful.
But my boys, the teachers don't believe them, and they Google me in class. I'm serious. They go, oh, rubbish. Let's Google her. Oh, yeah, miss, it's Femi Taylor. All right, come on, do your homework. They Google me, and my son goes, see, I told you. It's Google.
Sherwood, that's funny. No. I forgot, last time you were here, I brought this up. Did we establish if in canon, is Boba Fett alive still in the...
Oh, yeah.
He survived that? Nothing was ever filmed though of his. That would talk about like a great after credits scene. That would have been tremendous having Boba Fett hand out of the Sarlacc pit. Yeah. That was a drag.
But George Lucas has said, not recently, he said that Boba Fett does get out of the Sarlacc.
So it's
Definitely.
okay. I didn't know if that was a
Well, that's a nice opening to say, oh, he'll be in the next.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Yeah, in the 7th. That's neat. Yeah.
I'm quite happy to hang on the Sarlacc.
Why not?
So, any other questions from the audience? Hey,
Obviously, he does survive. The Tales of Jabba's Palace book that actually gets out.
he does. Is that what
Kevin J. Anderson in 1997, Tales of Jabba's Palace? He actually kills the Sarlacc and gets out.
Novel? Is it a novel or what is it?
It's an expanded
Yeah,
universe.
it's book. Expanded universe. Okay. It's not a movie now.
Right, no, I know that, but I don't know if
We
it's a
would see
comic or a
it.
novel.
It's not continuity.
What is it?
It's not
So
continuity.
it's not, so that's, okay, but Lucas said it though, huh?
Yes,
So he said it, then that's, so, yeah.
Gets out of the Sarlacc.
So that's probably how he does it, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, interesting, yeah. All right, let's see, we have questions? Yes, back with the white.
Who was your favorite actor or actress to work against in the show, in the movies?
Work against.
Yeah, like work with or work
Working with.
against work.
No, I think
Yeah.
at the time, I think Mark Hamill was great because he was very young, Mark, he was 24. He was great. Carrie was terrific, but she was sort of batty. Huge bubbles. She used to come up and say, are you going to be in this scene with me now where you're grabbing me now? Now be careful where you grab me. I said, absolutely. And then she'd laugh. She was great. And Harrison Ford, I met once, and he just came forward and said, my word, you must be art. He said, I just opened the shirt and went, because I was only one sequence. And then the American cast was good.
Yeah, I have many two villains responsible and Mark.
It was a very jolly thing. People worked very hard because it was uncomfortable in the costumes, and people just got on with it.
Got on with the job.
Yeah, got on with it. And do you remember Return of the Jedi? And there was the party with all the Ewoks, everyone dancing, and then there was a party for real, because it was the last shot.
Yeah.
Finally finishes it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Please go that way. And they all trooped out. And there was this party. and they set us up on
I was doing my show in the evening. Yeah, no, I didn't know about that.
Did you have a question? Yes.
Yeah, I have a question for Femi. Were the testicles heavy? Did you stuff your hair in them? And then my other question is the dance in actually Return of the Jedi. Did you have any say in it, or was it completely choreographed?
It was completely choreographed. It took a week to choreograph that dance between Janine and Gregory was a choreographer. So yes, everything was choreographed. But when I got on set, and with the costume, with the tentacles, it was a nightmare because they were really heavy. And like when I had to sort of turn and different directions, they just smacked me in the face. I just thought, I just can't do the dance justice. But you work around it. And then you have the leash, which is 20 foot long, and they nearly strangled me a few times. I think there was a TV monitor inside Jabba and 4 men. And so they couldn't really see me properly either. But you just work around all that. But it was like a helmet, you just put it on. And it's choreographed.
Just it's not a question. Femi, will you?
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
It's funny, the one thing I remember this year, still with me, is when I had to do the sequence, landing up in the slave one, turning to the Imperial officer saying, "What Captain Carl still?"
Yes.
I said, "What?" And they said, "Right, Jeremy, okay, over there, thank you, cut, let's move on." I said, "Put Captain Cargo in the solo role." And of course, no one could hear what he was saying. That was my first line. He's only got a few. Where did we get this guy from? He was to do the most frightening thing, you shuddered because you said the wrong thing. Luckily, they only disguised the voice.
Question?
Did you guys come up with the names, or did, like, obviously probably somebody else came up with the names, but they're very unique names. They're all pretty unique names.
It's a good question now, because I can't work out. Someone told me what happened, so I chose the names. But I think they came. I know that Boba Fett was named before I started working. But some weren't. They just threw a voice. But they were very clever. I think.
Very clever name.
Yeah,
Very.
a lot of them are.
Yes, in back.
Femi, I looked up. You did a great performances celebration of Andrew Lloyd Webber in the Royal Albert Hall. Can you tell us about that? Because it sounds spectacular.
Was that Andrew Lloyd Webber's 50th?
It might have been. It was 1998, and it was a great performances.
Yes. Yeah, that was great. I mean, there were people like Glenn Close and there was so many people that did that performance. And we did one of the excerpts from when I did Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yes.
And we sang, but yes, it was Jesus Christ Superstar. Yes, that was from the backing vocals. But it was just great to do that at the Albert Hall in London, and just be amongst all those amazing people.
Wow. And if I may, Jeremy, today's the 50th anniversary of Doctor Who. Who'd have thunk it? What was it like? Did you think it was going to last? You were on the one of the John Pertwee serials.
Well, the first one I did was with William Hart.
Yes, yeah.
1964. Must be very old. But they managed to get away with wobbly sets. You walk through and they said, whatever you do, don't lean against the set. And it was live. Ours was black and white, the original. And the set would start rocking. We were walking through after the Doctor, and you could hear. And I remember the director saying, whatever happens, just keep going. So we had this scene in front of me, and I was sweating like it. And I had shaved eyebrows, and my eyebrows were up here, just to make it sort of more alien. And I remember going, yes, the Doctor's here, we must find him, we must find him. And as I'm talking, I could feel these eyebrows sliding. As long as you carry, I just picked them up. No one will notice. strange alien being that has to do this every But it was live, a little bit of film in between, but it's quite scary. And then the John Pertwee one was more romantic, like a boom. And there was talk that I was going to go on as the next male companion. But I forgot it is the 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
It's time, we've got to do it.
Oh, yes.
Yep, right there, yes.
You both go to a lot of different conventions. Can you describe your best and worst fan experience?
This one.
That's not fair. You will be an interview, by the way.
I think the worst one, I'll say the worst convention ever, was when I turned up to this event in England, up in the north, and there was no one else there. There was really people. They told me the wrong place.
Oh.
But I stayed up there and came back the next day and saying, all these things happen. And the guy finally found 3 days later, he's having to have his son. What's happening? What happened was I suddenly realised no one was coming to the event. And I didn't want to let them down. I said, well, he did let me down by not telling me. So that's fairly good. And I think the best one was when I went to Japan, during the day, where it was I think to see you, I think they made a mistake there. But that was fantastic.
Were you there, Femi, as well, that one? Japan?
I've done Japan with you, that's right, yes.
second one.
The second one, yes, that was amazing.
This was, it's just incredible. Fans are not much different from any other fan. It's just the way we go about it. It's very exciting that people can see you and chat about it.
And also, I think it's just a real pleasure for us actors to meet all you guys, and it's just an honour to just be amongst you, and because otherwise we wouldn't have had a chance. The convention scene has been fantastic like that, and then you meet lots of people who've come before, so it becomes like sort of a family. So I just want to say thank you to all of you. Thank you.
I guess this one's for Femi. Just as a black dancer, you're playing obviously Jabba's slave, which obviously brings up the notion of political, sensitive issues, and the fact that your character was painted, I suppose, green almost in the actual set. I wasn't alive in '83, so I don't know the exact social stigmas of the time. Do you ever think of that?
No, I don't. I don't, because sort of, I thought that was my job, and I didn't want to sort of bring in colour as an issue. Of course I'm aware of it, but I didn't want to think, well, this is a sensitive